Happy Halloween!
Happy Halloween!
Well,
When
almost.
Yeah, what day is it actually going to be?
The 27th or something like that.
Okay,
I can't
yeah.
remember.
It's Halloween
You
the
know,
whole
it's fine.
weekend.
Exactly. It's probably when all you college kids are going out to parties. So
hmm
you can listen to these creepy ass stories while you get ready and we'll scare the shit
Oh,
out of you. It's going to be
that
great.
would be so fun.
Right?
Those
I
were the
know.
days.
Those were the days. Truly, truly,
hmm
truly. Well, should we just get started?
Yeah, I think we should,
Let's do it.
because
Let's do it.
everyone knows
You
what
kick
this
us off,
is.
Aim. Everybody knows what's up. Well, actually, one more thing before.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for Halloween? Are you gonna go to your parents, or will you have trick or treaters at your place?
Probably not, because we have our configuration is kind of weird. Like you have to walk through
Mm.
our gate and a yard
Oh,
to get to our door.
so kids are
So
like, we're not gonna go to that
yeah,
house.
yeah. So probably not. The only thing I know is on Friday, the 27th, I guess. We're going to Rocky Horror.
Oh my
Um,
god, fun!
yeah, but otherwise, I don't know. Like on the actual day, I have
Well,
no
that'll be
idea.
fun.
What about you?
Yeah, same. I don't think we're doing anything, which is fine with me. Like probably just stay in and watch a scary movie or
hmm
something. I'd be super down for that.
Yeah.
We did start watching so I watched the new Haunted Mansion, which was
Oh
really
yeah.
cute.
It was good.
So
I
cute.
saw it.
I can't remember, have you been to Disneyland?
No, never.
No. So it is just like the ride. I mean, they
Oh wow.
took direct quotes from the ride and stuff. It was really
Oh
nostalgic and cute.
yeah.
And just the story was so good. I mean, you saw it. The
hmm
story was just really cute.
Yeah.
Um, but then we also started the Goosebumps
Mm.
series,
hmm
which was very fun. So
Okay.
we've been watching that and along with a handful of other shows, but
Yeah.
it's really funny and
Is
fun.
is that the one on Hulu with like?
And Disney. Yeah, it's on
Okay.
both. I
Okay.
guess they did a collaboration for it. It's got Justin Long
Yeah.
and
Right.
the blonde woman from Lucifer. I can never remember her name. She plays a therapist in that. She's
hmm
been in a bunch of stuff. It's really cute. It's really, really cute. And actually
Okay.
pretty spooky, creepy.
Okay. Oh.
But it's it's following the same kids, but each episode is a new, there's an overarching story, but then each episode harkens back to one of the Goosebumps book storylines. So it's
Okay.
little
Cool.
mini stories within the larger story. It's really
hmm
cute. So highly
Yeah.
recommend if you don't have plans for Halloween, peeps.
Okay. I love it.
Okay. And without further
Wait.
ado,
Last thing.
let's see. Oh,
Sorry.
yes, yes, yes.
I wanted to
No,
know
don't
if you've
be.
seen The Exorcist yet. I saw it's in theaters now.
No, not yet. I'm going to see it. But actually,
Okay.
maybe I'll do that on
Yeah,
Halloween.
not a bad idea.
I'll
There
ask Noah if he's down. Be fun. That's
just
actually a really good idea to go see that on
yeah,
Halloween. That'd be
yeah,
fun. I
yeah.
probably would be scared shitless, but
hmm
it'd be fun.
That's kind of the point, right?
That is
So,
the point.
yeah.
Absolutely, that's the point. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
0% chance that I will be there
Yeah.
on
No.
Halloween. But I just saw it was in theaters, so I thought I would ask.
Yes, not yet, but I will report back once I do because I will see it for sure.
Okay, yikes. So
Yay.
scary.
Yay. Yikes and yay.
Yeah. So, okay, anyway, that's the last thing.
I
So,
love it. I
this
love it.
is our Halloween story, or scary story episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, we, or at least I for sure, just got 2 stories from No Sleep on Reddit,
Yes,
our favorite place.
always the best source.
Yeah. And this one is, so I just filtered it by the ones that are the most popular. This one
Mm-hmm.
has 70,000 upvotes. So it's
Oh my
the
god.
most popular one. And
Wow.
it's pretty good. We'll see what you think. But
Okay,
it
yes. I'm
has,
excited. I'm excited.
yeah, it's from 4 years ago. And or no, August 2021. Sorry. He's been a user for 4 years. His name
Oh, I
is
see.
EAPATBP. So
Okay,
good luck with
totally. Yeah,
that. Exactly.
nailed
So
it.
the title is My Sugar Daddy Asks Me for Weird Favors. Yep. So here we go. His Tinder profile said he was 45, but he looked to be in his early 30s at most. Looking for a sugar baby, $700 weekly, no sex. It sounded too good to be true, but as a broke university student, I was willing to take my chances. I swiped right, and Tinder let me know it was a match. His message came seconds later. Hey there, sweetheart. I cringed
Ugh,
at that word.
cringe.
I hated it, yeah. But $700 was $700, so I sucked it up and replied, Hey, winky face. His name was Jack, and he told me he owned his own business, although he never specified what kind of business it was. Excuse me. We talked for a while before he asked me for my Venmo to send me the first payment. After a few minutes, I got the notification. I stared at the $700 for at least 20 minutes, expecting to wake up from a dream at any second, but it wasn't a dream. You still there? I clicked on the message. Yeah, sorry, if you don't mind me asking, what are you looking for in return? I stared at the chat until he replied. I'm just looking for you to do a few favors for me, smiley face. That sounded like it was going to be sexual to me. Like what? And then he says, for example, the first thing I need you to do is pick up a delivery for me. That sounded innocent enough, but I was still expecting there to be some kind of twist. $700 to pick up a package? Come on, even I wasn't that naive. From the post office or something? He says, no, I'll send you the address, but I'd rather not do this through Tinder. You got Kick? The
You
KIK,
got
right?
kick?
That's what it
Yes.
is, right?
I think
Or
so.
you can give me your number. And then it says Kick? What was this, 2011? Which, yeah,
Right,
who
because
uses
I
that?
know what that is.
Yeah. So I decided to give him my number instead, and he texted me the address immediately, followed by the address to his house where I would have to drop off the package. He says, I'm not home right now, but there's a key on the bottom of the blue flower pot near the door. Go inside and put the package on the coffee table in the living room. Make sure that you lock the door when you go inside the house, and then lock it again when you leave. I grabbed my car keys and wallet and got into my car, putting the address into Google Maps. Got it. OMW. On my way. My phone buzzed as I backed out of the driveway. I'm serious. Lock the door both times, please. I thought that was a little excessive, but I promised him that I would. The house looked abandoned. It had a broken chain link fence around it with a small door that was hanging on for dear life. It stuck out like a sore thumb, surrounded by houses that were a lot nicer than this one in comparison. You here for Jack's shit? I looked up to see a man standing in the open doorway of the house. He took up almost the entire space, his head skimming the top of the doorframe. He was huge, in height and in muscles, and his entire torso was covered in tattoos. Yeah, I guess, I replied, not moving from my spot on the sidewalk. Stay right here, he said. I did. I actually don't think I would have moved if he had asked me to. I looked around and realized that there was no one else on this street. I was a
Mm.
21-year-old woman alone in the street. I gripped my car keys. A few minutes later, the man came back out carrying a cardboard box. It was about the size of a shoebox, but stained and damp on some of the corners.
Ew.
Yeah, gross. Can you open your car? He asked. I opened the trunk, not wanting that inside on my car seats, and he set it in. All right, there you go, he said. Thanks, I replied. I walked around to the driver's side of the car and opened the door. Oh, and one more thing, he said. I looked at him. Watch out, he said. I didn't reply. I blasted my
Ooh,
music. Yeah, creepy. So
menacing.
ominous. Um, okay, I blasted my music as I drove to Jack's house, hoping it would drown out my anxiety. It didn't. I parked my car in the stone driveway and stayed inside the car, admiring the house. It was a huge house, with stone pillars on the front porch and the greenest grass I had ever seen in my life. I turned the car off and got out. I grabbed the package and walked to the front door, getting the key from where he said it would be. I opened the door and stepped in, closing it behind me. I thought about what he had said about locking the door when I got inside. I thought that was overboard, but as I stared at the closed door, something made me reach out to lock it. I walked inside, my feet cushioned by the thick maroon carpet, and admired the inside of the house. All the furniture was wooden and looked incredibly expensive. I would probably finish school a dozen times with the money that it took to furnish this place. I set the package down on the coffee table, and as I walked back to the door, I heard a phone ringing from somewhere inside the house. I froze. In my pocket, my phone buzzed. I took it out to look. Don't answer any calls that aren't from Marvin. I put my phone back and followed the sound of the phone, poking my head into a few different rooms before I found it in an office. I walked over to the desk and looked at the caller ID. Incoming call from Jack. That was odd. I grabbed my phone to look at the message again. I was starting to get a little creeped out and decided I wouldn't answer just to be safe. Left the house, remembering to lock the door as I left. I've done a few more favors for Jack since then. I drove a BMW to a random park in another city, only to get out and drive a different car back to Jack's house. He had me meet one of his, quote, employees at lunch, who then gave me a briefcase to deliver to the first house I had gone to, and told me he would know if I had looked inside. On several occasions, he asked me to drive down to that same house and stay with the guy, whose name was Julio, for a certain amount of time. In total, I've made $3,500, which
Damn.
is great. So, most recently, Jack asked me to stay in his house overnight. I woke up to a text message from him. I need you to spend the night at my house. I hadn't ever seen him in person, but I had talked to him on the phone a few times. He proceeded to tell me that he would pay me $1,000 to spend the night at his house, provided that I followed a few rules.
Of course.
Yeah. I drove to his house that evening. The driveway was empty, as it normally was, but the porch light was on. I walked up, unlocked the door, went inside, and then locked it again. Everything in the house looked the same. Jack had told me over the phone that he would leave the rules, leave a list of rules on the dining room table. I set all my stuff down in the living room. My bags looked like garbage compared to the fancy furniture in there. I wandered into the kitchen and then to the dining room. Sure enough, there was a piece of paper on the wooden table held down by an empty glass. Lock the door when you come in. Only answer calls from Marvin. Don't turn on any faucets between 9 and 11 p.m. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. If the door to the closet at the end of the hall is open, sleep in the library. If it's closed, sleep in any of the bedrooms. The gardener
Oh.
comes at midnight. If he starts knocking on the windows, hide. That part freaks me out. The
Oh
thought.
my god.
Yeah.
I feel like this
uh,
girl's in for a rough night.
yeah,
Oh.
terrible. Okay, turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. All caps, do not forget to do this. And help yourself to anything in the fridge. Smiley face. I'll pay you in the morning. Good night. I made sure to follow all the rules. To be honest,
Oh
I was
my.
regretting my decision. But seeing as I was already here and I was getting paid, I decided to stay anyway. I figured as long as I followed all the rules, I'd be perfectly fine. Still, it felt a little odd. What was this, a haunted house? Nevertheless, I lounged around the house for a few hours as I was planning to go to sleep around 9, since that's the time that all the weird shit would begin to happen. At 8:50, I brushed my teeth, using the faucet for the last time before 9. That is so bizarre. Okay.
So bizarre. Like 9
I,
to 11 p.m.? Like
yeah,
9 p.m. to 11 p.m.
yeah,
Like those 2 hours? That's
yep.
so random.
Don't get ready for bed at that time.
No,
Yeah.
I guess not.
So, let's see. I checked the closet in the hallway, and upon seeing that it was open, I moved my stuff into the library and got ready to sleep on the couch. I locked the doors just in case and laid on the couch scrolling through my phone. I hadn't gotten any more messages from Jack, and I started to think up scenarios and reasons as to why he had such strict, peculiar sets of rules in his house. I had dozed off at some point because at exactly 10:16 p.m., I was woken up by the doorbell ringing. I was about to get up to check, but then I remembered the rule. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter who they say they are, after 10 p.m. I stayed on the couch, trying not to move, paranoid that they would hear even the slightest sound. It's the police! Open up! I didn't move. Hello, it's the police. Open up or we're coming in. I still didn't move, but I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. There was silence for a while after that. Then the doorbell rang again. Hey, it's Jack. Let me in. It sounded like Jack, but still I didn't get up. He would have a key, wouldn't he? Why would he need me to let him in?
Oh my god, this is scary.
It's really scary. This continued for almost a full hour. Different people would ring the doorbell, announce themselves, and then disappear when I didn't respond. I was finally able to fall asleep, and the gardener never came. Thank God.
Oh my god. I was gonna say, if the gardener comes, I swear I'm gonna
Yeah,
freak out.
too much. Okay, when I woke up the next morning, I heard someone in the kitchen. I got up slowly and unlocked the door as quietly as possible, taking my phone with me and walking across the living room and into the kitchen. I stopped at the entrance and peered in. It was Jack. He was standing in front of the stove, stirring something as the coffee machine brewed coffee on the counter behind him. Hey, good morning, he said when he saw me. Hi, I replied, nervous. I hadn't seen him in person before, but he looked exactly like his pictures online. Scrambled eggs? He asked, motioning to the pan with a wooden spoon. Yeah, thanks, I replied, walking over to take the plate from him. I ate my breakfast and drank some coffee in silence. So, how was it? He asked. It was okay. Nothing super freaky happened, I replied. Cool, he said. There was an awkwardness in the room. I think I'm gonna go now. I have class, I trailed off. I didn't, but I really wanted to get out of there. Oh no, yeah, sure. I'll talk to you some other time, he replied. I grabbed my stuff and he walked me to my car. I could see him standing in the driveway, staring at me as I left. When I got home, I unpacked all my stuff and noticed that I still had the list with me. I sat on my bed and read it again. I felt my body tense up as I realized that I had forgotten something. Turn the TV on and let it play on static through the night. Do not forget to do this. Do not forget to do this. Do not forget to do this. I stared at the words on the page until they lost meaning. Beside me, my phone buzzed, snapping me back to reality. It was the $1,000 payment. I looked at my phone and then back at the list. Maybe it wasn't an important step? As I was thinking this over, a text from Jack came in. He said, I'm not in town right now. I should be back next week. So you're free from running any more errands for me until then. Just sent the payment. Go do something fun. I stared at the message and read it again, and once more for good measure. I'm not in town right now. I thought back to this morning and how Jack was in his house, how he gave me breakfast. I'm not in town right now. Within minutes, a new text came in, this time from a number that I didn't recognize. Did you forget to do something, Winky Face? The text was followed by a picture of Jack, or whoever this version of Jack was, standing in front of the TV. I didn't respond. Next came another picture. This one was of the outside of my house. It was followed by another text. Watch out.
No. No, no, no,
And
no,
that's
no,
the
no,
end.
no. No. Dude, I have full body.
Yeah. I feel like that just made my face go numb. Like a weird fear reaction. Yeah.
I'm like freezing. I'm freezing. That is so scary.
Yeah. That's a good one. And I don't know what to think. Is it
I don't either. Like,
a
why have her
doppelganger?
do any of those errands in the first place? Like,
Right.
why did she have to be at the house at all?
I don't know.
Because someone has to be there to run the TV.
Yeah, that's true. I'm
And
gonna.
yeah, I mean, we are doing mimics
I
next
know.
week.
That's what I was thinking when I read that. Let
Ew,
me
dude.
see.
It's like genuinely really scary.
I know. Very.
The way I said that just reminded me of I would like just a dirty nightgown. That's really scary. I mean,
I love that so much.
so good.
um,
TikTok.
yeah, I'm looking at this person's profile, and they didn't write a part two for this, but they have so many posts on No Sleep. I
Really?
feel like, yeah, we could continue with their storytelling
People
at
must
some
have
point.
begged for a part two
Yeah, because
in the
there's so many
comments. Oh my God.
questions and not that many answers
No,
in that
not enough
story,
answers.
but
Oh my God, that's so fucking scary.
super
Jesus.
spooky. Yeah. So, on to
Okay,
you.
should I go next? Okay. So I decided to pick one that would be in theme with last week's episode, which
Hmm.
was the Appalachians.
Yeah, perfect.
So I picked one from about a year ago from a user also on No Sleep called Subaruligan, like Subaru hooligan,
Hmm.
I guess,
Hooligan.
which is
Yeah,
very
love
cute.
it. Uh-huh.
And it is called The Appalachian Horror.
Spooky.
So here we go. I grew up in southern Appalachia, and then they put the like pronunciation key and they say Appalachia, but I'm gonna say
Okay.
Appalachia because that's
Okay.
how I know how to say it.
Yeah, interesting.
In western North Carolina, 30 minutes outside of the town of Asheville. The hills and hollers of the Appalachian Mountains are some of the oldest mountains in the world, with some of the rock formations dating back over 1 billion years. It quite literally means they were here before there were terrestrial animals. As with most as with most things that have been on Earth a long time, there are inexplicable anomalies, both benevolent and malevolent. For example, the Brown Mountain Lights. Never in my life have I felt threatened or uneasy when witnessing them from Wiseman's view. They're neither good nor evil, they just are. On the benevolent side, sometimes when you walk through an abandoned old church up near mom and dad's property line, you can feel good, warm, happy energy. It's like that first warm day of summer when the sunshine is not too hot, but it's still not cold out. Well, the story is not about one such anomaly. It's about something that was absolutely malevolent.
Mm.
About a decade ago, I was in night school up at AB Tech, going to school for automotive mechanics. I would go into class at about 2 p.m. after I got off my part-time job, and I would end up getting home about 10:30 p.m. depending on traffic. Every night, I drove the same road in my old 1973 W200 Dodge pickup. Some nights it would get rather boring, so I would take a different route, jump off of I-40, and drive the back roads. On this particular evening, I had decided to just stay on I-40 because I wanted to go home and go to bed. It was Thursday and there was no class on Friday, so I wanted to get into bed early so I could go out into the woods and go hiking early tomorrow morning and watch the sun come up. As I jumped off of I-40 onto the exit where my parents lived, the night seemed to get darker, and none of the animals that I could hear through my rolled down windows made any noise. The cab of my truck became smaller and smaller, and my breathing quickened. I have never faced any kind of anxiety in my life, but at that moment, something felt off, and there was no way I could put my finger on what it was. It came to a stop on the exit ramp, turned to go down the road, and I happened to notice that the gas station off the exit where my mom and dad lived had no lights on. They were a 24-hour truck stop and always had lights on, but I didn't really think about it again after noticing it. I just chalked it up to the power being out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was definitely askew. I slowly shifted through all of my truck's old gears, not wanting to make any more noise than an old pickup already does. I leaned over my steering wheel to look up at the moon through the windshield, and there were barely any stars visible, which was way out of the ordinary. If you've ever been to Appalachia, primarily the sparsely populated areas where I'm from, you can see the Milky Way on clear nights. An absence of stars back home is only due to cloud cover or whatever in the hell went on this particular night. As I rounded a particularly sharp left hand curve and chugged through a straight stretch before the right hander, I looked at the ancient decaying barn I always gazed at when riding that stretch of road and thought about how long that thing had been there and how many advancements in civilization it had seen. For the split second that my gaze wandered, a large, sickly looking dog ran out in front of my truck, no more than 10 feet in front of me. Old Betsy was a good truck, but she didn't stop well. Thump, thump. I heard the
Mm.
fence posts I had left in my truck bounce up out of the bed and back into it as I slid to a stop. My first thought was, oh God, now I have to go tell these neighbors that I ran over their dog. That shit doesn't necessarily go over real well with people around here. As I sat there breathing in the smell of burning rubber, something else found its way into my nose: the smell of rotting flesh. It's not a
Ooh.
smell you ever forget once you smell it once, and I didn't pay much attention to it at the time. I just chalked it up to some rotting roadkill nearby. Finally, I thought to myself, let me go check and see who this dog belongs to. I pushed my clutch in, shifted to reverse, and as I looked in my rearview mirror, illuminated by the glow of my reverse lamps, was the same dog, only it wasn't on four legs anymore. It had stood up, like a man well over 10 feet tall.
Ugh.
Only then did it dawn on me that the front of my truck was about 5 feet tall, and this dog was every bit of 5 feet tall at the shoulder on all fours.
Oh God.
As it turned its head to look in the direction of my truck, I caught only a glimpse of this creature. It was not a dog, it was not a man. It was somewhere in between, and at the same time entirely different. Its skin hung loose off of its emaciated and thin frame. Bits of matted fur and dirt and mud clung to its legs like a disease. The right arm seemed a little bit longer than the left somehow, and they both hung abnormally low in relation to either animal this creature seemed to be. As it regained its senses, it turned and looked into the mirror like it knew exactly where I was sitting. The face was that of a man's, but the very edges of its face seemed to not be totally defined, almost like they were moving and changing, something you would see at a cellular level in a scientific documentary. There were no
Horrifying.
eyes, but only sockets where eyes should have been. No hair, and the skin that was dripping off its face was a cold, lifeless gray color. The nose was short and shoved into its face like a bulldog, but the teeth still haunt me. It was definitely carnivorous and true to form of the rest of its unnatural look. Many of the teeth didn't seem to be arranged in a natural way in its mouth. They seemed to fill and spill forth from this indefinable face, almost like they knew the horror they occupied and they were searching for a way out. It stared through my life, into my eyes, into my soul. It seemed like an eternity, but it could not have been more than 5 seconds that I sat there paralyzed. A light came on at the house next to the road, causing the creature to snap its gaze in that direction and tear off into the woods on its back two legs, again, like a man. I jammed my old truck in first gear and roasted tires all the way through first, snatched second gear, and drove as fast as I could home. When I got to the house, both of my parents were asleep. I went downstairs into my bedroom and loaded every firearm I possessed and locked all the doors. I couldn't wake them up. Who the fuck would believe that? And at 10:30 on a Thursday night. The basement was eerily quiet that night. Even their dogs that got up to raise hell at outside animals were dead silent. The old post and beam house didn't even creak or pop that night, as was usual. At about 3 a.m., I finally started to get drowsy, and as I went to lay my head down to get some sleep so I could attempt to go hiking the next morning, I smelled that stench of death again. It was faint at first, but it was definitely there. I thought to myself, you're going crazy. None of that shit was real. But as I continued to think about it, it became more and more noticeable until it seemed to fill the entire basement. My dad has a home office in the basement with two large glass doors that face Pisgah, I think it's called, National Forest, an impenetrable 500,000-acre woods. I finally worked up the courage to walk out of my bedroom and into the basement living room with my little tactical 12 gauge loaded, tack light on. I covered the flashlight with my hand so as not to make my presence known until need be, and as I turned right out of the living room into my father's office, I shined the light through the glass doors, and at the edge of the woods, there stood that creature. It was motionless, staring right into the light, unafraid, with those soulless sockets devoid of eyes. It quickly covered my tactical light, ran into the living room, flipped on the outdoor floodlights, and to my surprise, it was no longer standing at the edge of the woods, but between the house and the edge of the woods, still motionless. I swung the door open and fired every round I had in its direction. I must have scored a couple of hits because it screeched an unearthly scream, like that of a woman being slaughtered, as it took off into the woods. The dogs went crazy. Mom and Dad woke up asking me what the hell I was doing. I told them that a bear had gotten into the trash and I was scaring it away, and they didn't believe me, but I knew they wouldn't believe the truth either. I didn't sleep that night or any time until the following Sunday. Everything seemed to return to normal, and I didn't think about the creature again until I met my wife about 6 years later. Her mother's house sits at the mouth of the holler, no more than 4 or 5 miles up the road from my parents' place. Up on the side of the holler, there are kennels for her brother's hunting dogs, no longer in use and haven't been for years, but the fence is still there and the concrete pad is still there. It's a thing of great use when you need to quarantine an animal, for example. Her Great Pyrenees had gotten into a tussle with a raccoon, which of course he destroyed, but his rabies vaccination had lapsed, so he had to keep him quarantined for a time. It didn't bother him. He kind of likes the solitude. And this particular night that we were coming home from a movie date in our neighboring town was the very last night of quarantine for him. So we walked up the trail using our phone flashlights to get to the kennel, and there he sat, patiently waiting, tail wagging, happy to see us. We put him on a leash and started walking back to the house with him. As we were walking back through the darkness, I started to feel that same feeling I had the night I hit the creature in my truck. I didn't say anything so as to not alarm my wife, but then the smell came wafting in on the breeze, and she jokingly asked me, "My God, what did you eat? You stink." I half-assed laughed, not being able to fully appreciate the joke for the horror that was raging in my mind. She immediately caught on and asked me what was wrong, to which I could only reply, "I'll just tell you later." She grew up in the woods and around hunting and things of that nature her whole life, so she knew what I meant. She knew we were being watched by something. When we could see the lights of the house from the trail to the kennel, we heard it. There came barking from the kennel that sounded just like the Great Pyrenees we had on a leash next to us. It was a perfect imitation. The Pyrenees, being a guard dog, immediately sensed that something was wrong, so he turned to face the danger, belting out deep barks and growls in that direction. I don't know if you've ever had to drag a 150-pound dog, but it sucks and is no easy task. I'm 6 feet tall and 240 pounds, and it was all I could do to get him back into the house. The barking never ceased the entire time we were running towards the house. In fact, it seemed to grow closer and closer until it seemed like it was coming from inside my own head. Her mother heard the commotion and flipped the floodlights on as we made it into the fence of the yard, and I caught a glimpse of something coming to a dead stop at the end of where the light reached, wheeling around and tearing off back into the darkness. My wife looks at me and says, "You want to tell me what the fuck that was?" To which I replied, "Yes, let's go inside." I told her the story and she listened intently, hanging on every word. Her family came from a long line of granny witches and other supernatural healers of the Appalachians, so her older sister came over the next morning with some herbs and chants to bless the property and ward off evil. I suggested we go up to the dog kennels and do them there as well. When we got to the kennels, they were completely destroyed. The very concrete foundation was cracked, and the chain link fence was torn off of its posts. The dog houses were destroyed, and the place reeked of the smell that followed the creature. My wife's older sister just went about her business like normal, blessed the place, burnt some herbs, and led us back into the property. When we got into the house, she wheeled about on us suddenly and instructed us very firmly to never go into the woods after dark, not until this thing left us alone. To make a long story short, my wife joined the military and she ended up getting stationed in Delaware. Well, as someone who's lived around fairly large mountains and endless wilderness their entire life, Delaware is pretty terrible. Sorry to anyone from
Yeah.
Delaware. At least that was my first thought when we first moved into the middle of a 50,000 plus population city. Fortunately, though, it didn't take us long to find a house in a sleepy little community further south. We purchased the house and moved in with haste. We were both very grateful and glad to be out of the city and into a rural setting again. The land in Delaware seems lifeless in comparison to Appalachia. The sparsely populated woods don't possess any energy that really goes one way or the other. The ground doesn't seem to be alive like it is in Appalachia. Having not thought about the creature in a long time, I resumed staying outside after dark and playing with our dogs in our rather large yard that borders a small patch of woods. Well, last night I went outside to play with the dogs, and as dark came in, I built a decent sized fire in my fire pit and consumed some good old fashioned Appalachian Mountain cough syrup from a mason jar. Guessing that's moonshine.
Hmm.
And just as the fire was dying down, my American bulldog tore off towards the woods. He has a habit of running off to go on adventures. My immediate instinct was to chase him down in the yard and tackle him so he couldn't get away. As I tackled his 110-pound ass to the ground and threw him in a fireman's carry over my shoulders, I heard him begin to bark. Only I realized the bark wasn't coming from him. The only sound coming from him was a deep, rumbling growl, a noise I've never heard him make. It was a threatening noise, and something was definitely wrong. So I ran with him on my shoulders back to the house, that stench of death again beginning to fill the
No.
air. The two other dogs must have caught wind of what was happening and met me at the back door, which I threw open, slammed shut, locked, and again loaded my firearms. How the hell could this thing have followed us 650 miles up here? As I flipped my floodlights on at the backside of my house, several of the bushes and small trees at the forest's edge were still shaking like something had just run through them. My dogs went crazy all night, barking and howling, trying to get out through the doors and windows. I didn't sleep a wink, and I don't think I will for a while. I know for sure I won't be in the woods after dark ever again.
Mm. Oh God, what is it?
Skinwalker.
Dogman, Skinwalker.
Dogman.
Is Dogman a thing? Didn't we
Mhm.
talk about that at one point?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And Dogman is from Appalachia, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the lore stems from.
Oh God, and it followed them.
I know. That's the worst
That's
part.
How do you
That's
ever get rid
absolutely
of
the
it?
worst part.
Yeah. Oh God,
Unclear.
those poor people.
Scary.
So
I know.
scary.
Literally just
Oh,
trapped.
yeah, forever.
Your turn.
Okay.
So
um,
scary. Just
yeah.
taking turns terrifying each other.
That's what we do best.
That's what we do best, y'all.
Yep. Um, okay, so this one is also long. Are we okay with that, or should I save it?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So this is another one that was in the most popular on No Sleep. And it's
Mm-hmm.
actually a little bit similar to that last one. And it's a series this time. So
Ooh, okay.
this is by, hang on, New to Town Jam is their
New to
username.
town.
And it's from 2019. And the title is The Previous Tenant of My New Flat Left a Survival Guide. I'm not sure I want to live here anymore.
Oh my
So,
God.
part one. I moved in with my boyfriend yesterday. We've been together for 5 years now, and we're old and wise enough to settle down and finally leave our parents' houses. He just turned 24, and I'm 22.
Okay.
You're not old or
Yeah,
wise yet.
no.
So,
Still not. Still not
yeah.
there at 30. So we got a ways to go, kiddos.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, so
God.
he's the love of my life. His name is Jamie, and I couldn't be happier to be living with him. When we decided to, cute, make the leap, we spent 2 months looking at flats and houses we couldn't afford to buy yet, so renting was our only option, but the prices were astronomical. For our budget, we would have been lucky to get a box room and a stove. Jamie works for a local 24-hour fast food restaurant, and I'm training to be a teacher. The early stages of training don't pay much, and I owe a lot in student loans, so finances are tough. We had almost given up hope until we found our flat. It was nothing special, but to us it was a palace. A spacious 2-bedroom apartment with views of a city park, a balcony, and local conveniences. It was in a tower block in a not-so-nice area, but neither of us had been wealthy growing up, so we weren't fussy. Just grateful to be together. The advert was sweetened by the deposit-free option and open-ended tenancy. One quick thing, Dave, my boyfriend, he says advertisement completely seriously, not advertisement.
What?
Yeah, which I think that might
That's
be a
so funny. That's
British
so
thing.
British.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's British.
advertisement.
That's so advertisement.
Yeah, just made me think
All
of that.
right.
Anyway, yeah.
Slay.
Yep.
Posh
I
slay.
know. So the advert in this case, that does feel British also to call it an advert.
Advert. Yes.
Okay.
I'm down with it. I like
Yeah,
it.
advertisement. So, okay, sign a 5-year. The landlord was happy to sign a 5-year contract if we wanted. That sort of thing never happens in the city. We were told that along with no deposit, we would also have no inspections, but would be liable to pay for any damage when we ended the tenancy. I'd never heard of anything quite like it. We knew that for our budget and location, we weren't going to get any better. We snapped the place up fast, not even bothering to view it. It felt like our only chance. Move-in day rolled around quickly, and yesterday we got the keys to our first home together. It was such a strange feeling. The day was chaos, getting our stuff in and up in the lift. We were flat number 42 on the 7th floor. The items we couldn't get in the lift had to be taken up all the stairs by the removal men. I think they were grateful we weren't any higher, but I still wish we had been able to give them a better tip. In the evening, we settled down on our secondhand sofa, given to us by a cousin of a friend, and watched some TV. We smoked cigarettes on the balcony, looking at the park, and fell asleep on our mattress on the floor super early because we had no energy to put the bed together, and Jamie had work at a hideous time of the morning. We slept soundly last night. I felt safe and happy. I don't think that feeling is coming back anytime soon, and it's all due to the
Oh,
note I found this morning. I found it in the kitchen, having a coffee, hours after Jamie had left for his early shift at work. It was in one of the cupboards that were fixed to the wall. There were a bunch of useful items from the previous tenants. Spare keys to the flat, a set of tiny keys that locked and unlocked the windows, necessary for kids this high up. Spare smoke alarm batteries, and a folded up piece of paper. The note was handwritten with "New occupier of flat 42" in beautiful cursive on the blank side. I opened it up and sat down to read. I can't really describe it to you, so I'm just going to copy it out below. Dear new occupier, firstly, welcome to your new home. I lived here before you for 35 years with my husband. Unfortunately, he had an incident at home recently that I'd rather not discuss that claimed his life. My sister has now decided I can't keep up with the demands of the property and has insisted that I move in with her and her husband. I was reluctant at first, but the stairs do kill me at my age, and without Bernie, it's filled with sadness. Anyway, when you've lived somewhere for as long as I have, it feels like a person that you know. You understand its personality and what makes it tick. I thought it was probably pertinent that I impart some of that knowledge on you. It's a wonderful home, honestly. I have lived through best and worst years, and living, they mean leaving it behind, is
Mm.
very emotional. But if you are to survive and get the best out of it, then there are some steps you need to follow. One,
Uh, survive.
yeah, survive. One,
Jesus.
the landlord will never bother you. He doesn't visit, call, or communicate in any way, but make sure to pay your rent in a timely fashion always. I have only dealt with him once in 35 years, and let's just say I never missed another rent day. Any repairs required, you speak to the agent you rented the place with. 2. Do not use the communal lift between 1:11 and 3:33 a.m. Just don't do it. This step is vital if you are to have a happy life here. It really is life or death. Don't do it. This has cost me and many others in the building greatly, and I would rather not elaborate on why you shouldn't do this. Just please don't do it. I cannot stress this enough. When you hear the strange, 3, when you hear the strange animal noises coming from flat 48, don't question it. Mr. Prentice lives there, and he's a lovely chap. Don't be afraid to say hello to him in the corridor or on the stairs. But whatever you do, don't check on him when you hear the noises. You'll know when you hear them. 4.
Oh God, what the fuck?
No. 4. If you ever come across a window cleaner on the balcony, ignore him. He may seem like the nicest fellow you've ever had trying to sell you something at the door, but it really is best that you don't engage. He will go away if you ignore him. But he tries pretty hard the first few times, so you'll need some resilience. Whatever you do, don't offer him anything. No money, no drinks. Number 5. Don't leave food scraps out. Bin or refrigerate them immediately. If you have small animals, it is imperative that you watch them eat and take away any leftover food immediately after they are done.
Oh
This
my
and rule
God.
2 go hand in hand. The
Wait, what
things,
was two?
the
Mr.
animal
Prentice?
sounds, yeah. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, the
No,
animal
no, no,
sounds, the animal
sorry,
sounds.
hang on. No, it's the lift. Don't use the lift
Oh,
between
okay, okay.
1:11. So,
Okay.
okay, rule 2 go hand in hand. The things forage all day and seem to really love animal feed. You can leave what you want out between 1:11 and 3:33 a.m. So you may want to feed your pets then, like feed them in the middle of the night. Um, Number 6, don't communicate with any neighbors who claim to come from flats 65 through 72. These flats suffered a fire in the late 80s that devastated the whole floor, and all the residents died in their homes. The building was mostly
Oh my
council
God.
owned at the time, and they've been empty ever since. But every now and again someone will knock at your door claiming to live in one of these flats and asking to borrow some sugar. They will seem entirely average, but you must shut and lock the door immediately. I
Oh my
installed
God.
2 extra security bolts to avoid them. Um, Number 7, simple one for you here. Keep a weapon in each room. Sometimes you follow all these steps
Oh my
and
God.
something still slips through the net. Better to be safe than sorry. Number 8, we're still going. The building has a committee that will try and get you to join. It's one of those neighbor groups about improving living conditions for all residents. It's a nice group, and the lady who runs it, Terry from Flat 26, is a fantastic neighbor. By all means, get involved, but I wouldn't recommend babysitting Terry's 2 children. She'll ask you because the poor woman needs a break, but if you accept, don't say I didn't warn you. Number 9, stray hairless cats sometimes roam in the hallway. I know they're supposedly a special, expensive breed, but they don't belong to anyone. They're mostly harmless, but don't pick them up. Not unless you see one of those neighbors that claims to live in 65 to 72. Then grab the cat, lock it inside with you. It'll burn your skin a little, but the cats are friendly, and I wouldn't want to see them
What?
hurt. It's just getting weirder and weirder.
Oh my God.
And 3 more rules. So, number 10, there is no way to fix the damp patch on the ceiling in the bedroom. Sometimes it will turn a deep crimson and look quite concerning, but please try not to be alarmed. It doesn't drip, it doesn't get any bigger, and it's been there longer than I have. The landlord won't budge on it, according to the agents. I flagged it many times, even called the police the first night it changed color, but it was a waste of time, and it will be for you too. It's best to ignore it. Number 11. You can trust the postman. His name is Ian Flanders, and he's been the postman since before I moved in. He has his own key to the main door and delivers post to the door every morning at 8:54. I can't include everything here or it would become a novel, but if you have any questions, Ian will help you. 12. Finally, the first few weeks are the worst. You'll feel like you've made a mistake. I'm sure reading this you already do. But if you can get through the first few weeks, it really is a lovely block to live in. Every property has its quirks, and this one is a little extra special, but you can be truly happy here if you just take my advice. I wish you all the best. I really do. Mrs. Prudence Hemmings.
Okay, we need to find Prudence.
Yeah,
What the fuck?
she sounds crazy. Okay, so I don't really know what to think after reading the note. Hopefully it was some sort of joke, but the agent had said the previous tenant was an elderly lady, and I can't see anyone named Prudence Hemmings attempting to play practical jokes on someone they'd never met.
Mm-hmm.
There are also parts of the note I couldn't disprove. There was indeed a large damp patch above the bed that me and Jamie had already discussed reporting. No crimson, but it definitely existed. I had also commented on a beautiful Sphinx cat roaming the halls as we were moving in. I started to get seriously freaked out. Our dream, our beautiful little home, had just become a source of fear and confusion. I checked the time and it was 9:14. Damn it. Out of time to catch postman Ian. When I opened the door to check, sure enough, 2 letters addressed to Mrs. Hemmings sat on the doorstep. At about 11:15, my worst fears were truly confirmed when a friendly, middle-aged looking man carrying window cleaning equipment knocked on my balcony door.
Oh my God, how'd he get up there?
I know. I ignored him. I didn't want to take the risk until I'd spoken to Jamie and showed him the note. I texted him already to rush home. I felt bad as the man rapped his knuckles against the door for over 10 minutes. But honestly, the longer it went on, the more terrified I was. My windows were sparkling, and due to our lack of curtains, I couldn't even hide from his gaze. I felt so exposed. He stayed for a total of 30 minutes, and never once did he stop looking at me or knocking.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. It's worse than the gardener.
I know.
It's worse than the gardener.
Mm-hmm. He shouted the occasional ultra-friendly line or humble request for a beverage in the heat through the door, but I did my best to avoid eye contact. When he finally left, I looked outside every window in the flat, but I couldn't see him on any of the other balconies or see any equipment suggesting he was around. He had vanished completely. Jamie still hadn't texted me back. He must have been having a rough shift. It was a Friday and they were always busy. It wasn't often that he didn't reply. He was due home in around an hour anyway. I read the note probably hundreds of times over. I tortured myself reading it for the next hour, desperately waiting for Jamie to come through the door to tell me it was all crazy and I should just relax. I hoped for that so much, but Jamie never came. His shift should have finished around midday, but by 2 p.m. he still wasn't home. I panicked, I cried, I left over 100 voice messages on his phone but got nowhere. I finally decided it had been long enough that calling his work wouldn't embarrass him, and his boss told me that he had never turned up for his shift. I thought about it. What could have happened? And then it hit me.
Oh my God.
Jamie's shift started at 4 a.m. today. He would have left the
The
flat at
elevator.
3:15 and taken the lift downstairs. I don't
Ooh.
know what to do. I've tried to convince myself it was all just a big joke. Maybe Jamie wrote the note and got his boss in on it. A voice in my head kept telling me that he couldn't write like that if he tried, but I had to attempt to fool myself. It's getting late and he still isn't home. What if it's all true? I think we made a big mistake. And then we go on to part two. Next time we
Oh
have a
my God.
story
Oh my God.
episode.
Oh my God. It's the new The
Mm,
Summer I Met David.
yeah, David. Yeah, it
Oh my
is.
God, I can't wait. I'm not going
I
to read the
know.
next part because I want to
Yeah,
be surprised.
yeah. I
Oh my
can't
God, that's
tell.
really good.
Yeah, I think it's either 3 or 4 parts. I see two linked, but it looks pretty long. So,
Oh
ooh,
my God, so good. Okay, well, I
yeah.
have like a relatively short-ish one
Okay,
to wrap us up.
perfect.
This one is from Blair Daniels. This was written 2 months ago. My stepdaughter has been taking photos of me while I sleep.
No. No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, I'll pass.
She says, I don't know what to do. I'm really freaking out right now. Apparently, my stepdaughter has been taking photos of me while I sleep, and I could really use some help. To back up, 6 months ago, I married my husband, who we'll call Harry. Harry has a daughter from a previous marriage. She's 13, Lily, in quotes. That's not really her name. I don't have kids. Lily and I have never gotten along. However, in the past few months since we got married, things have gotten much worse. She used to just ignore me, and now she's actively aggressive. I found paint on my favorite heels. She accidentally used one of my favorite t shirts as a cleaning rag. She even spilled some sort of black ink in our bed during an art project or something like that. Who knows? Harry's talked to her over and over again, but he hasn't really disciplined her. I keep telling him she needs to see the consequences of her actions, but he's too much of a softie to actually ground her or take away her phone, etc. She's going through a tough time, he keeps telling me. Please just let her be for a few months. I tried to ignore it, but then it got worse. Harry was on a 3-day business trip, so I was completely in charge of Lily, and she amped it up to 11. The very first morning, she came down the stairs wearing one of my necklaces. You can wear my jewelry, but you need to ask me for permission first, I told her. I don't need to ask permission for anything, she replied, rolling her eyes.
Rude.
Yes, you do. For the next 3 days, your dad's gone, so you need to listen to me. No, I don't. You're not my mom, she shouted. Then she pulled at the necklace and snapped it in two.
Wow.
Little bitch.
Yeah, rude.
I wanted to scream, but instead I calmly confiscated her phone. Harry would be furious with me, but I'd had enough. When she got home from school, she ran into her room and locked the door, crying. I explained everything to Harry over the phone. I could hear the annoyance in his voice, but he agreed that she needed to learn and it was okay to keep her phone for a few days. So I thought things were looking up. But then it happened. Later that night, after Lily went to bed, I went to take a picture of our cat, but I grabbed Lily's phone by mistake. And after I took the photo, when I went to the camera reel, I found a photo of myself
Mm.
sleeping. What the fuck? It was a dark, grainy photo. She hadn't used the flash, but I could still make out my face clearly, smushed against the pillow, eyes closed, and I could make out Harry's silhouette in the background behind me, facing the other way, and even my book on the nightstand. Before I could stop myself, I flipped to the next photo. There was another one of me sleeping, taken from a different angle, taken from below, like she'd been
Oh,
hiding under the bed.
ew.
Fuck. Fuck,
No.
fuck, fuck. My thumb raced across the screen as I flipped back through the photos. There were dozens of them. Dozens of photos of me sleeping. One taken from inside our bathroom, another taken from inside our fucking closet. I looked at the timestamp on them and they were all taken around 2 a.m. over the course of weeks.
Mm.
I tried to call Harry 3 times, but his phone went right to voicemail. It was after midnight, and he had an early meeting the next morning. He must have turned it off. Come on, I muttered, calling him a fourth time. Jen? I jumped about a foot in the air. Lily was standing behind me. In the semi-darkness, her wavy hair hung halfway over her face. I backed away. What do you want? I asked, quickly ending the call. I want my phone back. Not tonight, I replied, my heart pounding. Maybe tomorrow. She shrugged. Okay. But then she went back upstairs and into her room. I flipped through the photos one more time. Why in the world would she take these photos? To intimidate me? To scare me? To plan murdering me? Or there was a much more likely, much less sinister reason. She could have taken them to embarrass me. Maybe she planned to post them all over TikTok or Instagram, me sleeping with my mouth open, looking like shit. Really mean of her, but not psychopathic. Still, I locked my door that night anyway. After talking to Harry, I felt better. He thought the same thing. She was taking them to post them online or something, but now he was in total agreement with me. This has gotten out of hand. I'm going to talk to her as soon as I get back. So that was a relief, at least. Can I have my phone back today? Lily asked when I picked her up from school. If you're really, really nice, I'll give it back, okay? I just locked the bedroom door at night. She couldn't take more photos of me. But later that night, I regretted my promise. Lily was a model kid. She thanked me for dinner. She washed her dishes. She even folded the towels sitting on the dryer. And while I didn't want to give her the phone back, I wanted to reward her for being so good. So I gave it back. At 2:30 a.m., I woke with a start. I sat up in the darkness and I realized what woke me up. A clicking, metallic noise. It was coming from the door. Just as I started to get out of bed, the door creaked open, and there was Lily, with a bobby pin in her hands. She'd picked the lock. What are you doing? I hissed. Her eyes went wide, and then she ran back down the hallway towards her room. I jumped out of bed, running after her. Hey, I shouted. Why are you taking pictures of me? Why? She stopped, then slowly she turned around. Dad didn't believe me, so I had to take the pictures. Didn't believe you? About what? She didn't say anything. Instead, she handed me her phone. She swiped to the first photo of me taken in the darkness, grainy and dark. She pointed to the ceiling. Look. At what? Turn the brightness up. I did, and then I gasped. There was something there on the ceiling. Spindly, long shapes crisscrossing each other. Even with the brightness turned way up, it was hard to make out, but there was definitely something there. She flipped to the next photo and the next, and my heart began to pound. It was like watching one of those old flipbook animations. In slow motion, with each swipe, that thing on the ceiling unfolded itself and began reaching for the bed. I stared at the final photo, the one she'd just taken minutes ago, me sitting up in bed, my face twisted in anger and shock as I yelled at her. And behind me, long, spindly arms reaching for me. The phone fell out of my hands. Dad didn't believe me. When I showed him the pictures, he didn't even see it. He yelled at me and said I was reading too many scary stories. So I've been showing them to my friends. We've been trying to figure out what it is, but we just don't know. Lily and I are staying at a friend's place for the time being. We're not going back there, not until we talk to Harry and figure this whole thing out. Does anyone know what this could be? We've been searching nonstop and haven't found anything promising.
Oh, God. That makes me feel like I'm going to cry. I hate that. No.
It takes such a turn. I was like, when I first read it, I was like, oh, this girl's creepy. This girl's creepy. It was like my wife keeps smiling at me one.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes. And,
yeah.
oh,
no.
Isn't that so scary?
Like much worse somehow.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Ooh, scary.
I'm saving my third, which is a series for the next one we do because we've already gone an hour.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
Thanksgiving.
I know.
Doing it.
Thinking. When is Canadian Thanksgiving? Is that?
It's already passed.
Oh, okay.
It was last Monday, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but
so.
spooky.
Yeah,
We'll
have to wait a month. Ugh.
I know.
Okay.
I know. Well, we have mimics to talk about in the meantime.
Yeah.
That shit's fucking scary.
That'll be great.
Ooh. Well, spooky little hoes.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you scared the crap out of you. Happy
Mm-hmm.
Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
If you have any spooky stories, send them to us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. And otherwise, we will talk to you guys next week.
Yay, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.